why don't we review some CMLL? I feel like reviewing some CMLL. I don't do it very often. I want to get into the habit of doing it more often. And we had a big show. We had a big CMLL show just a couple of days ago on last Friday being March 21st. We had essentially it translates into Tribute to Two Legends 2025, but I'm going to try and pronounce it just for the hell of it, for the content, right? It's not as if I'm looking for reasons for my audience to bully me, but might as well just give them what they want, essentially. So the show is called CMLL Homenaje A Dos Leyendas. I think that's how you pronounce it. Dos Leyendas. It's the Y that's a little tricky, I believe. 2025. Yeah, like I mentioned, it's the second biggest show of the year, typically speaking, for CMLL. The other one being the anniversary show, which is usually in the fall. And we came into the show with some bold booking because a lot of the people that you would usually think would be at the top of the card were not, or not in the main event, let's put it that way. Instead, giving a lot of spots to some guys who aren't usually this high up on the card, and most of the time really are not. So, is this CMLL's way of following suit with, seeing what's going on in New Japan, where they're like, yeah, maybe we should try and push our young guys a little more, guys that are, maybe maybe young isn't necessarily the case, because a couple of the guys in the main event aren't exactly young, but, guys that could maybe try to elevate themselves, bring themselves up to another level kind of thing. See how the crowd reacts to them. It was it almost felt like an experiment in some ways. Because it wasn't necessarily a flashy card, but I thought this was a very good show. Griffin over at Voices of Wrestling wrote the review for the website, and he winded up his review saying this was a home run, and he's absolutely right. They just knocked it out of the park. There's probably one match that we, if we had one of those, those neuralizers, right, from Men in Black, if we could do that, that'd be tremendous. But other than that, this was a really top-notch show, and it was main evented by a mask versus mask match. Might as well get into that. We'll start with that one because obviously that's the lead here. It ended with Star Jr. losing his mask to Zandekan Jr., who is a wrestler I really like, that I discovered a couple of years ago. Before I really started getting into CMLL, he was partnering with Yota Tsuji in a World Tag League, and it's probably the last few World Tag League matches I watched were those two guys, because someone had said, oh, Zandekan in New Japan, that's very interesting. And he was with Yota Tsuji, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, if it's interesting, I'm going to give it a look. And, I've been a fan of his. I really enjoy his work. I think he's got incredible charisma. Like, he comes across as a top guy. I think there's still some polishing off, that still needs to be done. I don't think he's ready to go top guy, main event, Arena Mexico every Friday type of deal. Don't get, we're not talking about that, but he's definitely a dude to keep your eyes on if you haven't already. I think he has the makings of something special if he can put it all together, as we like to say. But he defeated Star Jr. to unmask Star Jr. In case you don't know how this match was set up, this was really well built over the past few weeks and a couple of months, actually. I think they started this really at the start of the year, and might even maybe a little before. They've been building this feud for many weeks moving forward between these four guys. Esfinge, Valiente, Zandokan Jr., and Star Jr. All four of these guys were always like in the mix with each other and were, just being dicks and, pro wrestling stuff, right? And eventually it all came to a head where all four of these guys challenged each other for their masks to have a mask versus mask match at the tribute show that we had here last Friday. And the way this match went down had Star Jr. and Zandokan Jr. tag teaming against Esfinge and Valiente, again in a tag team. Now, if you're unfamiliar with New Japan, Valiente and Zandokan are typically rudos, while Esfinge and Star Jr. are technicos, so baby faces. So not necessarily compatible, and they were put in teams with guys that they are really, really at odds with each other. But the idea here is that whoever wins the match, whichever team wins the match, would then move on to have both guys face each other immediately after in a singles match for the mask, right? And, when I saw this first iteration of a match, I found it a little weird. I'm like, well, why do the winners move on to fight for their masks? Wouldn't it be the losers? And then, just someone outright pointed out to me, it's like explained, that in CMLL, there's or in Lucha Libre, there is pride there is pride in taking another luchador's mask, and there's a big machismo thing to it as well. It's just a lot more macho. You don't want to be the loser. You want to put your mask on the line because that if you win, that makes you an even bigger dog in the yard kind of thing. So I'm like, all right, that's fine. But Esfinge and Valiente, they were at each other's throats. Star Jr. and Zandokan Jr., they were at each other's throats. And if you were to ask me, these two guys truly were the stars of this feud, because they were week after week having these great post-match angles, like being absolutely brutal and vicious with each other. Star Jr., a fine little wrestler, right? A guy that's like, he's pretty good, but never a guy that you'd picture. You'd say to yourself, one of my favorite luchadors, or, what a great guy. But, a nice little wrestler who never really got a big chance. And he was given this big chance to shine here. And I think he grabbed this opportunity by the throat. He was absolutely phenomenal all the way through the match as well. And in the post-match as well, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. Week after week, Star Jr. was showing more and more verve and energy than at any other point I had seen him wrestle. And, haven't been watching this CMLL for all that long, but even in conversations that I've been a part of with other folks who have been watching Lucha Libre for much longer than I have, they were even in agreement where they were like, yeah, Star Jr. is absolutely killing it for the first time in his career. He's doing stuff that feels meaningful. Zandokan is, he's a very well-positioned mid-card guy, and they always had. I think they do have big plans for him. I think they really like him, and I think this is absolutely a sign of that. Whereas Esfinge and Valiente, I think a lot of people, they were part, before I get too ahead of myself, they were a part of the anniversary show last fall, which was another four-way match where it ended up where they were in that with Hechicero and Euphoria ended up losing his mask to Hechicero. So a lot of people figured that it might be one of these two guys here, Esfinge or Valiente, losing his mask. And I think a lot of people were betting on Valiente to lose it. He's an older guy, he's a little more banged up. You're like, okay, well, sometimes removing a mask gives a guy a few more years, tacks on some extra years to a career. But clearly that wasn't the plan. They decided to go with Star Jr. So all that to say, in the match itself. So the match starts off, the first part of the mask versus mask proceedings was the elimination tag team match, where you basically defeat the other tag team so that both guys in the winning tag team can go fight each other. And this, it was good. Don't get me wrong, it was fine. Valiente, he, I think, from what I understand, he's had better days. He's very good still, but not exactly the guy he used to be. I think Esfinge is fine. I think he's, the very definition of a perfectly capable, reliable mid wrestler. Like, maybe, around it like a Sean Spears or an Ethan Page, where it's just like, yeah, no, he'll do what needs to be done. That's fine. He's not going to blow your mind. He has a cool mask. I mean, he's like a sphinx. That's his whole thing. He's like an Egyptian. Esfinge means sphinx. So he has a cool mask. Don't get me wrong. But, it's like, otherwise, he's fine. The two better workers in this match were Star Jr. and Zandikan Jr., and that kind of showed in the opener with the tag team. But then once you see, there's an elimination within the tag team, within the tag team part as well. Zandikan Jr. eliminates Esfinge. Then Valiente eliminates Zandikan Jr. and then Star Jr. eliminates Valiente. So after that, we start from there, and then we have the one-on-one. And then this is where the entire build really starts making sense. The entire build to this match, where these guys were just like pummeling each other after their matches, were just going after each other constantly, having some really great post-match beatdown, some great angle development, cutting promos together, saying, because in the lead up to this match, saying, well, I don't like you, you're not my friend, I'll work with you, but only because I want to take your mask. It was really, really well done. So immediately, once Valiente hits the bricks, we're right into business. They go right for it, and they fight onto the floor into the crowd. The crowd is so into this, by the way. The crowd is really, really into this. Arena Mexico, of course, was the venue. I forgot to mention that at the top, but they were so completely into this, and they're fighting. They're fighting. They're doing all their cool shit. They're like, at some point, Star Jr. does a cannonball dive to the floor, of course. But he's coming at it with such velocity that, Zandikan catches him, but the momentum, like the sheer velocity of the dive has him being Zandikan stumbling backward, and he can't quite, hold on to him, and Star Jr. just flies into the audience. It was a tremendous spot. There's a superplex into a brainbuster by Zandikan Jr., an avalanche hurricane rana by Star Jr. This would actually be a crucial move for the remainder of the match. He does it. He does his super hurricane rana as a springboard. So basically, Zandikan is standing on the top turnbuckle, and Star Jr. is standing on the ropes next to him, and then he springboards off of them into the Rana, which was absolutely phenomenal. And we're getting some really big near falls off of all of these big moves, like close near falls, crowd cheering, can't believe what's going on. They're on their feet. It's just fantastic stuff. And the Star Jr. seems to be getting the upper hand more and more, but Zandikan keeps kicking out. But then the big error that Star Jr. did is to try for the Super Hurricane Rana again in the exact same setup. So he goes on Zandikan's on the top turnbuckle, he's on the Star Jr.'s on the top rope, and he jumps off, locks his legs around Zandikan, but Zandikan blocks him, which is fantastic, lifts, power bombs him, jumping power bomb off the top rope. Just a fantastic finish. Well, it wasn't quite the finish because Zandekan did a Liger bomb to put him away. And just absolutely phenomenal stuff. And it was attrition. It was anger. It was rage. It was you could feel all the hate that these guys had been that had been boiling between these two guys throughout. Right? It was this entire feud was built on this hatred that they had for each other, and you could feel it in this match. And neither guy wanted to give up because they didn't want to lose to their arch rival to a degree, and it was absolutely fantastic. And that's when so Zandekan Jr. has the opportunity, gets the mask, I should say. So Zandekan Jr. gets the mask after Star Jr., of course, milks it a little bit. You know, he tries to take off the mask and he goes ringside and asks his girlfriend to, you know, untie the laces behind the mask. He can't quite get it done. Gives her a big kiss, comes back in the ring and milks it. Finally takes it off. And you know, the joke is that most of the time the guys who get unmasked are ugly. they're not the most aesthetically pleasing. But I thought Star Jr. looked completely fine, like a nice little, you know, charming gentleman. You know, I think someone pointed out to me, he was like, "Oh, he's got a bit of a Rudo face." I'm like, "Oh, you're not wrong. You're not wrong." And maybe that's where we're going with this, because after the match, because after removing the mask, you know, Zandekan reaches out to take the mask. And Star Jr. won't let it go. And Zandekan's like, "Give me the mask, motherfucker," or whatever, you know. And Zandekan just like pops him one in the mouth. And they basically cheap shotting him and lays a couple of in. And, you know, and then he hits the bricks. Which from my understanding is, you know, it's a little, you're a sore loser here, Star Jr. You're not supposed to, like, you know, it's kind of against, you're being a sore loser. You know, a true luchador would stand there and take his moment and, like, you know, and accept it. But he clearly doesn't accept it. He's pissed off. And if they wanted to extend this feud a little more, I wouldn't have an issue with it. If they want to keep going at this for a couple of weeks, I'd be completely fine with that. I'm into it. I like these guys. I like both these guys, and I'm glad Zandekan got it. Again, I think they might have I don't know if they have plans, but they have a vision for this guy. It wasn't a mistake. And I think they see what a lot of us see, they being, you know, the booking committee, whoever the fuck. I think they see what a lot of us see in him. Again, I don't think he's a finished product, but we're not that far off. There's just, you know, he needs some polish in the ring. I think he's a guy who can, who's very generous, who gives a lot, but has troubles taking back, if that makes sense. So sometimes his stuff doesn't look as crisp, I guess. But yeah, no, I'm completely, you know, I thought this was a fantastic way for that. Like, I thought he was the perfect winner for this. I don't see who else could have, of those four guys, I don't know who else could have done it. And by the way, Star Jr., as they do, is revealed to be Isaias Hernandez Lopez. He is 32 years old from Itzapalpa, which got a pop from the audience. Because, yeah, now his identity's out there. That's what they do. So 32 years old. Like I said, you know, Zandekan's the youngest in the bunch, like, right? I'm pretty sure Zandekan is under 30. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to get a luchador's age for apparent reasons. So I can't, you know, I don't have it at the ready right here. But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential here. I think the right man won. As for the match itself, I thought the one-on-one section was outstanding. I thought it was excellent even. It was very fierce, great stuff, well executed, well timed. These guys played off each other perfectly. I really didn't need the tag team. I really didn't need the tag team portion of it. And I think that brings me down a little bit from the heights maybe that I would otherwise give this match, because I think the opening tag team salvo is a bit of a bummer, and especially how things were built. I didn't feel as invested in Valiente or Esfinge in this. I really feel like the focus was on Zanakan and Star Jr. And so to me, Esfinge and Valiente were kind of like, bit players in all of this. And I was like, no, these are background players. These are the NPCs. Get them out of here. It doesn't matter. The main characters here are Star Jr. and Zandakan Jr., and it was a very roundabout way to get to it. I probably would have just not done the 4-way. Unless they really want to put more people on the show, which is fine. Maybe they were afraid it wouldn't draw, which is fine. But the way they booked it, I don't know how anyone would have thought that. The way they ended up booking it, I don't know how anyone would have thought that, oh yeah, Esfinge Valiente, that's going to be the main event. That would have been a terrible idea. So 4.25 stars for me on for the mask versus mask match, which I would absolutely recommend you checking it out. It was a blast. It was a lot of fun. Let's go back to the bottom of the card. And work our way all the way back up. Los Gemelos Diablos and Akuma defeated Explosivo Fugaz and Star Black in a fine opener. I don't know. There isn't much notes for me on that point. At one point, the Technicos do a triple spot to the floor with a moonsault, well, basically a Norihara, and then two guys diving through the post, which was tremendous. I don't know who was who. I don't know if it was Star Black or Fugaz or Explosivo doing what. But that was truly a great spot. A good opener to get the crowd riled up. It was very good. 3 stars for me. Solid opener. Then we had the CMLL World Women's Tag Team Title match. The finals of the tournament, the worldwide tournament that they had, where La Jarochita and Lluvia, I should say, defeated Lady Frost and Taya Valkyrie. Before we get into the match, I was listening to Cubs Fan last week, and he made me realize this, and I couldn't believe it myself when I went to Cage Match just to see it with my own eyes. Not because I don't trust Cubs Fan. I was like, why would he make this up? I just wanted to see it with my own eyes. But the CMLL World Women's Tag Team Championship, folks, has never changed hands. You heard me. It has never changed hands in a wrestling match. Ever since the creation of the title championship in 2023, it has been the only reason there has been different title holders is because the title holders vacated the belts. The original winners were Stephanie Vaquer and Zeuxis. Stephanie Vaquer, ended up having plans elsewhere, so they vacated the title. And then it was Juvia and Tessa Blanchard who picked up the titles after that vacancy. Tessa Blanchard, she had plans elsewhere as well, so she hit the bricks, vacating the titles, and now La Jarochita and Juvia are the champions. This match stunk. This was not a good match. Look, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but listen, the worst person in this match wasn't even Taya Valkyrie. That should tell you, like, what we were, okay. La Jarochita did her best. Jarochita? I think I'm not pronouncing the J, right? It's La Jarochita. I think she did her best with what she had here. I think Taya looked motivated, but Lady Frost, man, she was just blowing spots and missing her cues. It's just a complete disaster, but not as much of a disaster as Juvia, who I do not understand why CMLL wants to push this person. She stinks. She absolutely, legitimately stinks. And it is a fascinating to me that they have her in these positions and in title situations when you legitimately have others on this in that division who are leaps and bounds better than her. The match was disjointed. It was slow, clunky, no smoothness at all to it. It was just terrible. Terrible. And I'm like, these are the AEW representatives. This is kind of embarrassing for AEW. Because they were saying that you could hear commentary saying, AEW, All Elite Wrestling, representidad, whatever, however it said, something to that effect. If I'm basing myself off my French, maybe that's what it is. And I'm like, this is so embarrassing. Like, this is legitimately embarrassing. But thankfully, later on, we have other AEW representatives who do a far superior job. We'll get to that. Titan defeated Templario in a lightning match. This rocked. This was a lot of fun. These are two guys that I really, really like. These are two of my favorite luchadors. I think, Titan I'm very familiar with thanks to his association with LIJ over in New Japan. So, I've seen him work quite a bit. I've always had a bit of ever since I started CMLL, I've always had a little affinity for Templario. I think he's been improving tremendously. He's not improving, but elevating his game. He's been elevating his game quite a bit, and I think I think he's on his way to truly being a top guy for the company. Look, this match ruled. This match, and it was a lightning match, which means that it has the hard 10-minute time limit, which means that they have to pack a lot of cool shit in, and that's exactly what they did. They packed a lot of cool shit into this match. Avalanche Gourdbuster by Titan and a Sasuke by Templario, excuse me, and a Sasuke special on the ramp right into the ring, which is always a move I like. Coup de grace by Titan, and we're heading into the 1 minute warning. And then Titan locks him into La Inmortal, which is his finishing submission move. And with something like 10 seconds left, Templario taps, which is heartbreaking. But I'd be okay with them running this one more time. And it kind of felt like they want to do it again. They were being all macho with each other after, which is always a good sign that they want to do some more wrestlings. The thing here, from what I understood, they wanted to do a little more their unit affiliations in New Japan. They wanted to have guys come in from New Japan to sort of help build the feud or be there at ringside, but clearly it didn't quite come together, right? Because talked about LIJ, but Templario's in United Empire. So maybe they'll do that as the feud progresses. Because I found it kind of weird that they just did a lightning match with these two guys, because these are two guys who could have gone out there and stole the show. Maybe that's why they kept them to 10 minutes as well. And if they want to keep building off of this, well, that's fine. It's just weird that you wouldn't want to give the best possible match you could on the second biggest show of the year for your company. But, I don't do the booking. I don't run a company that's been around for, almost a century. So, what do I know? Then we had the CMLL World Tag Team title match where Los Hermanos Chavez, which is Angel de Oro and Niebla Roja, they retained their titles against Rocky Romero and Volador Jr. This was really good. This was fantastic. A terrific match. A really, really terrific match. Really hard hitting with 4 great workers. Like you can express it in other ways with much more multiple, with many more words. But ultimately, you had just like 4 great workers doing great things with each other, and it was tremendous. I usually hate Towers of Doom. I hate thankfully we've seen everyone stop doing them, I feel, or they're not quite as common as they used to. But they did a Tower of Doom on the floor, and I thought that kind of ruled. I haven't seen many of those. That was kind of cool. Within the match, there's some miscommunication between the Chavez brothers that leads to them shoving each other and just being pissed off, and that leads to Niebla Roja being eliminated from the first part of the match because they get counted out. Both teams end up being counted out. And there's a lot of protesting that happens because of it. Both teams are arguing with the referee. The audience absolutely dislikes the finish. Everyone is pissed off. So, the officials are there. The CMLL officials are there, and they walk to the ring with the titles, and everyone's sort of like forlorn. And then this whole thing lasts quite a while. I'm not going to lie, it wasn't very short. It lasts quite a bit, but everyone's pleading the case for, to continue the match or at least restart the match. And the officials go, they finally thumbs up, and it's like, okay, let's do it. We're gonna restart the match. Audience cheers, everyone's into it, and then Rocky and Volador early on get the upper hand, but Niebla Roja turns the tides. He gets Rocky out of a submission, throws him on to Volador, and then the Chavez brothers get the win via submissions shortly thereafter and retain World Tag Team titles. So, look, this was tremendous. This was so much fun. Another great match. A fantastic showing from the dudes here. I probably could have done without the pause and restart. It's a personal preference for me. I know it gets the crowd fired up. Don't get me wrong. It's fine. I understand what it's supposed to do, but I'm kind of like, we really didn't need this because we really didn't. I thought the match was completely competent and great. More than competent, I thought it was really good. Outside of it, 4 stars for me. To wrap up that match, it leads us to Mascara Dorada and Místico, 2/3 of Sky Team, taking on the Titans of the Air, Los Titan de, I don't know. I don't remember their tag name in Spanish, but I remember it translates to the Titans of the Air. Commander and Hologram representing AEW. Now, this was not embarrassing by any stretch of the imagination. And the cool thing here that we have to address is that Commander and Hologram, both former AAA wrestlers, right? As it's pretty well documented. Well, I don't know how well documented it is for Hologram. Hologram is the former Adamis who used to wrestle in AAA and then decided to leave the company, was like, I'm going to go find something else to do, and was told by an official, a AAA official on the way out, you will not have a better career anywhere else than you will have here. Whoopsie. So without relitigating all of the history between CMLL and AAA, the essential base is that CMLL and AAA hate each other like viscerally, and guys who wrestle for the other company usually can't show up on. Guys who wrestle for the other company usually don't show up on the company, in that promotion, so on and so forth. But it kind of feels, so I'm sure that it was special for Commander and Hologram to get back to wrestling in Mexico and doing it in front of Arena Mexico. I'm sure there was a lot of satisfaction in that for multiple reasons. For the fact that they were, one of them was told that he'd never have a career outside of AAA. For, just wrestling in one of the halls of international professional wrestling, not just Mexico, but like across the world. There's certainly a lot of satisfaction, and it's crazy. Just like Taya as well, right? Taya is a wrestler that is clearly associated, or maybe not clearly, but was for a long time associated with AAA. So for her to be on a CMLL show, all going through AEW, I think this goes to show how much this relationship that CMLL has with AEW is good. I think it's a strong relationship that exists if they are going to be confident enough in AEW and Tony Khan ultimately, and to allow former AAA people on their show when they're usually extremely protective of that. So there's a lot of really interesting politics in this. A lot of things that I think are worth pointing out. I don't know if they're true. I don't know if it is. I don't know, like for real, for sure, if it is a sign that the relationship is very strong. But I have to take it as a sign that the relationship is very strong. I don't know how else. I don't know how else you could see it within that context. And these two dudes came in representing their AEW, and boy, they were ready to go, and they were flawless. They were fantastic. The match starts off with Hologram and Mascara Dorada doing some incredible athletic exchanges to really set the tone. And both guys they're on point. They're not flubbing through things. They're being crisp. Like it's really, really motivating. You're like, oh, okay, this fucking rules, right? And Commander throughout the match is just fantastic. He's doing his rope walk dives, and the crowd is losing their shit. There's at some point, this crowd doesn't even know who to cheer for anymore. They've got Místico, okay? Like the god of Arena Mexico. And they're not even like outright cheering for Místico. The crowd is absolutely split on them because the action is great and everyone's looking great. Dorada is giving I'm watching this and I'm like, he's giving off main event vibes right now. Like he is absolutely on top of his game. Like as good as this kid is, like in this match specifically, there was something going on where I'm like, okay, I haven't seen him be this present. I don't know, like, so I don't know how to put it. It's a vibe thing where he just commanded the ring and felt larger than life with his offense all looking spectacular and spot on. It was such a fantastic match. Except for Místico. There's something that happened in this match that completely threw him off his game. And I don't know when it happened or how it happened, but it happened early on. Because I'm looking at him and I'm like, wait, he's not as smooth. What's going on? Oh, you do a couple of things, you're warming up, you're like, okay. But then I see him try to do like his crowd participation things, what he usually does to get the crowd involved. And he's kind of, there's something off. He's not feeling like himself. He's not looking like himself. What the hell's going on with Místico? And he flubs a spot at some point, a springboard, and like, no, something's wrong. Like something is wrong, and he's lying on his back after spots. He's there. I'm like, no, something happened. Like, did he get his bell rung? And then worked with a slight concussion for the rest of the match. Which, if so, Mystico, you're an idiot. Don't do that. He truly was off. A guy who is never off. He didn't have that precision he usually has, that smoothness that he has where he does, ranas or hit scissors, and he does the thing where he lands on one foot and then the other foot follows it. Yes, like it kept me from going really, really hard on this match because I think this had everything for like with how the match went down. If Mystico had been healthy, on top of his game, however you want to define it, I think this would have been my match of the night. I think it was absolutely on rails to be a match of the night for me. Not quite, but still a terrific match because it was carried by the three other guys who were like, sure, don't worry, we got the work down, right? Oh, and the finish happened when Dorada and Hologram pinned both of each other at the same time to eliminate each other, I guess kind of to protect Hologram's undefeated streak, I guess. It's kind of weird. And then after that, Mystico lands the La Mística on Commander for the win. Look, it's a 4.25 star match, even with Mystico, looking not great. It was still tremendous, and I honestly, if he had been okay, I'd be raving. I'd be ranting and raving about how great this match was, even more. But it was still a great match. I absolutely loved it. 4.25 star match. But there you go. Because then after we had the main event, but we already talked about that. So yeah, CMLL, a tribute to two legends. It's a good show. It's a good show. Skip the women's tag match. Absolutely skip that. Everything else is a blast and a great progression. A home run of a wrestling show. You should. Oh yeah, and short. It's like just above 2 hours, and if you chunk out the women's match, I think it'll be under 2 hours. It'll be like I don't know, whatever. I don't know. It won't be. It's a nice little card you can digest very easily. Do yourselves a favor and give it a watch. It was tremendous.